and tell us your name, your favorite movie ever. And it can be your favorite movie ever right now.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be your favorite movie ever.
My name is Kim. My favorite movie ever probably Vacation Game. That was one of the next one.
Yeah.
Vacation Game.
That's a good movie.
That movie made me like cry because my entire life.
Wait, I shouldn't be laughing at that. I shouldn't be laughing at that.
It was good what I said.
My name is Christina. What's your favorite movie ever? Do you really watch movies? This documentary can be your favorite ever.
Have you watched the movie recently?
Favorite
Any
book, I
movie?
guess. Yeah, really. I used to watch Grease as a kid like every day.
Grease.
You're obsessed with it?
You have a favorite book?
I read, but I don't have like a favorite book. I don't like having a favorite. I don't even
You
have a favorite
favorite
color.
movie.
I don't have a favorite color.
She's Rachel Simon.
Just wondering, there's supposed to be an event in Butcher's Sweet. Like, this is the documentary here. This is not. Is that not Butcher's Sweet?
This is.
That's Butcher Sweet, but that's not where the event is.
Oh, that's what it said on the flash flash.
Yeah, the flash is cool.
Okay, great. That's cute.
See what happens?
You can have that one.
Good job.
Do you guys want popcorn?
We're doing. Here, we'll leave you holding the popcorn.
Thank
I'll
you.
eat it.
So we're doing your name and your favorite movie. That's what we're doing. We just met Christina. What was your favorite movie? Oh, her favorite movie is Grease. She's not normal.
I'm Myra. My favorite movie is Seven.
Which is scary. Yes? My favorite
It's like a thriller. Like Wonder Woman, Brad Pitt, and Morgan Freeman.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite movie. I think I was reading As We Play Love, and
Did she die before you were born?
yeah,
Because I remember when she died, didn't I?
yeah, yeah.
Great. Good. We're going to skip Cornell.
Hi, I'm Joe. My favorite movie is Inglourious Bastards.
I'm Juliana. My favorite movie is Donnie Darko.
Good movie. Cornell.
What movie is your favorite movie?
Donnie Darko?
I've never seen Donnie Darko.
Oh, it's a
Great movie.
There's a weird rabbit. A good song. Disaffected youth of the suburbs.
I'm Cornell Craig, and I'm the co-captain of this ship.
Co-captain.
No, not scared is a nice word. But that's not my favorite movie. My favorite movie is probably, it's probably A Soldier Story. It's from 1983. It's one of Denzel Washington's first movies. I think it's good. It's a very good movie. But I love Coming to America as well. The first one's kind of a drama that kind of Coming to America.
A funny copy.
Yes.
I'm Rachel. I'm the co-captain, and I'm gonna have to eat all this popcorn. I'm gonna pass it around again, so hopefully you will make me eat all the popcorn. My favorite movie is anything made by Hal Hartley. Amateur is really weird in a really great way. So this film we're about to watch is a documentary made by Jennifer Baumgartner, who is the executive director of Feminist Press. And she starts by kind of explaining that when she was in high school, her sister was raped, and when she was an adult, she realized, like, oh, I could be raped, like that actually happened, and thought about how her North Dakota town dealt with that. And so the film followed 8 women and 8 women's stories, and it's about sexual assault. And we all are or know someone who's been sexually assaulted, so you should take care of yourself. And if you need to leave, or if you want to talk, or if it's upsetting in ways, then I'll leave it at that. And I'm going to go turn off this light. Somebody randomly turned on this morning. And I'll turn it back
Always
on play.
frustrating.
Yeah, I was gonna go. Hold on. But I'm gonna pass this around again. I'm gonna go turn off the light.
Include this, and include this. Nice to get a screwdriver, it's not that bad.
When I was in 7th grade, I was in gym class one day,
Is that going
and
fast?
just running around the gym in my Chris Agassi outfit, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, Jenny, your sister's a sledge."
Here you go.
Guess we'll keep it here.
That's like the Mickey Mouse version.
I know, I was like, it sounds funny.
Boy, popcorn is delicious. I had a job in high school at a movie theater, and for one like 8-hour shift, you'd be locked basically in the attic in a windowless room where you could see through a fence all the candy, but you couldn't have any of the candy. And you would just pop popcorn for 8 hours, and at some point you'd burn yourself on this industrial popcorn popper, so you'd be like alone and burning, and you'd be
When I was in 7th grade, I was in gym class one day, and just kind of running around the gym in my Chris Agassi outfit, and
Is there, if you click on that triangle, does it give you options like play this normal? Special features? Like right there.
Microphone.
Yeah, right there. Go back to the special features. We may seem incompetent, but we're actually smart people. We have a couple of graduate degrees,
Couple.
Honestly, not.
not a play a movie. Do any of you have a laptop with you that has a DVD drive?
Yeah,
I do. You can try one of yours.
Oh, wait. I don't have my HDMI adapter.
We do. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Look up the So, you know what, yeah, okay, yeah. So, you plug that in there.
I'm not sure if they're all entirely accurate.
What the play?
Do you know if you won the thing that you were nominated for yet?
It's next weekend, we haven't presented yet, so we'll find out then. We have to present in front of all of the schools going against Columbia. They're the only other ones presenting, so.
You got this. I was walking that way thinking about popcorn. I'm gonna walk this way. So after that job, I couldn't eat popcorn for 10 years. But now I'm 20 years out of high school, I can popcorn.
Breaking the speed. This is promising. I'm such a, I'm not a PC.
when I was in 7th grade, I was in gym class one day, and just kind of running around the gym in my Chris Agassi outfit, and somebody came up to me and said,
slut. She had sex with someone over the weekend. And I don't remember how I responded. I know I didn't say anything. Like, don't slut bash or, anything that my feminist self now would say. But I remember thinking, I can't believe she's ready to have sex. I can't believe how mature she is. I'm a million years away from that. Of course, I didn't really know what had happened. I was 14. I had been at a party where I had been drinking for like the first time, and everyone was drinking their thing, which I think is the one thing that kids do around here when they are in high school and uncomfortable is they start drinking. But we were at this party, and I drank enough so that I needed to take a nap, and I went into the bedroom of the boy who had the party, who had been my boyfriend a couple weeks earlier, but we'd broken up. And his best friend came in and decided, really, that he was going to, I guess, have sex with me. I wasn't passed up to the extent that I knew this person had come in. I knew that he was trying to come on to me and trying to kiss me, and I knew that I didn't want that. And I was saying no, no, I just want to sleep. And also, he wasn't someone I was interested in. I didn't feel like I had any control over the situation. I didn't feel comfortable enough to just scream or do something, because I think there was a part of me that did want to not be outrageous or not, just to fit in. I remember for a long time I thought it was my fault because it wasn't like I'd been tied to a tree. The immediate aftermath was I had a complete sense of doom. Because I think even, honestly, while it was happening, I was thinking, well, this is going to be over soon. I can withstand this. I can put up with this until it's over and make my escape. The aftermath of the next day was having friends call me and having people in my grade call me and say we heard about what you did and writing on my locker and just a complete, just a total blaming of me. And that's the worst part. The intense shunning that happened to me, and I think happens to a lot of, I'm mostly young women who've had this similar story, is the most detrimental part of the story, is the most damaging. I would say the young women definitely wanted their distance from me because they certainly didn't want to know a slut. And unfortunately, conversely, the young men my age and older who had heard the story thought that gave them license to touch me. Writing on my locker that I was a slut and I would do it with anyone. And I hung out with my parents a lot on the weekends, and I think they knew because I wasn't grounded for once, so they were like, oh, why is she hanging out with us? We didn't want to go anywhere. The two people who stood up for me that I remember were one friend whose locker was next to mine, and he would just erase it. The person who was my only female friend at the time, I think she just, I haven't kept in touch with her, but she just didn't care. Afterwards, he was always sort of leeringly friendly to me. And then we did end up dating in senior year. So, what do you think led to that? Remember at the time having consciousness of I'm dating someone who is not wanting to be at one point? I don't think the consciousness happened until I was in college, and I thought back and thought, that whole series of events doesn't seem right. By senior year, I think dating him, there was a different power dynamic. And in a sense, I think I had kind of been successful by finally then dating him in a more, I guess, traditional way. It was like normalizing things. The consciousness of the fact that he violated me in ninth grade. Didn't hit me till much later. I haven't kept in touch with any of these people, or very few of them, so really it was my 20-year high school reunion, going to that where I realized like an hour before that I was shakingly mad, just furious at some of these people still, and just seeing them as falling for reals or whatever they were, I just thought, I hope you have daughters. I hope you get to worry about your daughters and people like you.
Stacey Ann, you want to on stage? I couldn't for my mother. I am my left hand. Black child in her flat belly. Rock. Stone in her heart.
Stacey Ann Chin, and I was raised in Haitian religion. My mother is Black Jamaican, comes from very poor stock. My father, and it shall be put that in quotes, my father in quotes, is Jamaican Chinese. He says I am not his child. My mother says he is because he raped her. I think less than I feel like I'm a product of rape. I feel like I wasn't a product of love, which is equally stunning in its ability to bring to I only saw my mother once during my life. Up before I was 25. I saw her when I was 9 when she came to visit. She took me to my grandparents' house, a house that had many people, about 11 people, and we had about 3 or 4 rooms. I was completely without the protection of anyone who was looking out for my welfare. And then on top of it, there was brutality of being beaten all the time, being told how much of about who you are and how you. And I was a kid, I was 9 when I went to live with them, so all of a sudden I was completely responsible for washing my clothes and my hair and my bed sheets and all those things. And we didn't have a washing machine, so I had to wash it with my hands. So of course I didn't clean. So I always kind of smelled a little funny. I started to work really hard towards becoming a member of the middle class. I worked hard in school and passed my exams. I went to college in Kingston. By the time I was 21, I was a South African lesbian on campus, which was unheard of in Jamaica. I was saying quite loudly, I'm lesbian, I eat pussy, so what? I think it was my coming into a time when I knew that I was my own person who could make my own decisions, and that there wouldn't be the kind of repercussions that I had been used to as a child. During that time, I became a bit of a loner, had my headphones on, walking across campus by myself. And these boys, they had a history of saying things to me. And I would always be like, I would always wonder, why do you like girls, Come up to my room and I'll show you what you're missing and you don't want no pussy anymore. And I would, kind of say things that deeply emasculated them. I would say things like, of course, your shriveled up little dick is the reason I am going to turn over. And one day I just had my headphones on and I was kind of jamming into the block. I looked up and then, the voice had circled me and it doesn't appear. So he pushed me in the bathroom and pushed me against the wall and took my shirt off and took my bra off, my skirt off, and vagina, hit me, assaulted me. And then a young boy came in and the conversation and interaction that happened gave me the room to kind of slip out and run. It was after that incident that I realized that it was really not safe for me to put lesbian LGBT stuff into me. I had somehow associated being vulnerable to sexual violence with being a little girl, being poor, and not being strong. So now that I was feeling very strong, and I wasn't poor, and I wasn't a little girl, that I didn't consider that kind of thing would happen to me. So I bought a ticket and came to the US, and so I kind of started exploring this. Bumped into the American Poets Cafe, where people were reading poems loud and very dramatically, and I thought I wanted to do that. My first poems were about being a lesbian and being safe. I think I wrote some poem about I stabbed some guy and he was trying to rape me and he died and I went to prison and I was happy because there was no women there. So it was the first one. I've been there and people loved it.
The youngest of 8 kids. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. In a very Catholic family, Irish and Polish Catholic. All the girls' names begin with C, all the boys' names begin with J. For Jesus Christ. Yeah. I grew up in Buffalo, but I grew up in this cottage in Canada. And I had this group of friends in Canada and that I was with, that I hung out with in the summers. And one of my best girlfriends met a guy, and he was older, and he and all of his friends rented their own cottage. They were like out of college. We were in high school, but they were like in college. They were like guys with their own cottage, like there were no parents. There was a sense of, wouldn't it be great if one of there were like 6 or 7 guys, like if would work out with one of them. So I fooled around with 2 of her friends, with 2 of her boyfriend's friends. And we went out had beer. And one night it was my friend and her boyfriend and me and this other guy. And he was one of their friends that I didn't really like. I didn't like him. He was good looking. My boyfriend went off into a room by himself and we were all drinking. And then he turned the light off. And I remember it was just me. And I remember thinking like, it's dark, it doesn't really matter. And then he like ripped my pants off. I was like clawing, like screaming and clawing. It was violent and like just really bad. And I remember that I was screaming and he snapped his pants on my face. And my friend and my boyfriend came out and whatever, and I just remember they grabbed my ears and they were I I think I didn't hang out with those guys afterwards. And they gave this tape to my girlfriend, to my friend, and said, "Oh, give it back to her." And it was a tape that I had left at their house. It was that tape with like 60s music. And we had all been dancing around in the living room, or my boyfriend had it, or whatever. And they took this tape, this group of guys, took this cassette tape that was mine, and put it in their boombox, whatever, and pressed record.
He put his bar in my car. They put fridge leftovers in fantastic. He had all the shelves in the refrigerator, put them in. Hey Rudy, got some leftovers in the morning. Chef, that's like a broom handle over his car. Where's the good boy? Crazy girl! He jammed his boat around my car.
It was the 80s when it happened. Like, bulimia was the big after-school special then. Like, we hadn't quite gotten to rape yet. And I won an award for my senior term paper. I was at this prep school where we had to write like a 20-page term papers on one poem. And I wrote mine on Linda and the Swan and won the award for my poem. And I victim mentality, but I feel like I have it in a sense. I can't believe that all of these teachers read this term paper and that nobody said, "How do you know so much about rape? Like, how do you know this?" I didn't go out of my way to talk about it, but I definitely acting out in some ways. It's really boisterous and all kind of like, everybody knows now, you know, we're so there, and so I kind of just not paid attention to it. The thing about being a victim of rape, about being somebody who's out of control and has something terrible happen to them, that loss of control, the thing that I hated the most about for years was the hatred that I had inside of me. Like, I hated hating him so much. I hated thinking about him. I hated hating him. Family life for me was pretty good, like pretty standard. You know, like I have a brother and a sister, and we had a tree house, and I went to private school, and I don't think I ever was told by my parents about sex. But like, I don't know how I know what it is, but I remember with my Barbies, like slapping them together, and but I didn't really understand until I got out of private school and went to public school in 5th grade, and then I was taught everything. So yeah, that's when I think I started realizing, oh, that stuff's happening. I was molested or raped, whatever I guess you could classify it as, between the ages of 4 and 10. So I can remember that's what I gauge it as. But it wasn't like every day or every week. It was like very random times, and I only remember like certain things about those times. But I know it happened probably like 6 or 7 or 8, or I just know it wasn't like 2 or 3. It was up there, and especially in the beginning, I had no idea because. Like when I was born, I had a yeast infection, so I always continually had like yeast infection problems when I was little.
So that was a way for my dad to like, I felt like he was like, you know, taking care of my medicine problem. In 5th grade, and this is the last time, I was in the pool, and my dad was, it was grossing me out, but my dad like, his penis touched me, whatever, and I got in the house and I started knowing like, okay, wait a minute, like for real now, I know something's not right. And he called me into the bathroom, I remember, and he was just standing there naked and like waiting, and something just hit me and I was like, no. And I ran into my room and I slammed the door and I was like, you have a fucking wife. Like I remember saying that, and I just like slammed the door and he was laughing, which is pretty like traumatic. And then after that, he's like, you know, I'm really sorry, like I won't do it anymore. And he really didn't do it after that. I think I have walked on purpose some of the things, but I remember specific things. Like I remember the first time. I remember like we were on sheets, and he told me, because like I'm the middle child, that I'll be the favorite. I remember in my mom's bathroom, and I just remember like laying on the floor face down, and I know he's doing something with my rear end-ish area, and I don't know what, but whatever it is, like I'm petrified if any boy touches me. I know one time he took me into the shower and he masturbated in front of me in there, and I'm pretty sure more stuff, but that like is the only thing I remember about that time on the peach sheets. I'm pretty sure that he made me something, but and I know there's other stuff like that, but I like solidly remember. So, and that's like the only time I ever said that. So. During all this, was just out of the house, or, you know, I don't think, you know, obviously you don't like trust your husband, so. And more and more around like 5th grade, I would start telling myself, I want to tell her, but I can't because then we'll get divorced, and I don't want to be the cause of like a divorce. The way it all came out, my mom was like, you guys had to go out to dinner with your dad, and I don't know, just something inside me, I was just like starting to get really freaked out. I was like, no, I'm not going out to dinner. So my sister and brother went, and then one day, I just like couldn't escape it. My mom was like, hey, we're gonna play this off, we need to go to dinner. And so I got in the car, and just something came over me, and I just like started bawling. I was like, let me out of this car, screaming, like, you know what you fucking did. Like, I had never said that, like, I never. And so it made it real at that moment. Like I never really knew if it was real, and then it became like real. And he's like, have you told anyone? And I said no. He's like, well, I think you should tell your mom. So he drove me back, and I walked into my house and I was hysterically crying. And my mom was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I was just crying. So she ran outside and she was talking to my dad. And then my brother came up to me and he's like, hey, what's wrong? And I really don't want to tell him. And he made me. And my brother chased him and ran out and pulled him out of the car and like punched him and told him, you know, not to come back. I think my mom was talking about pressing charges. But then when that was said, I was just like, no, I can't like go through that. That's just way too much. After everything came out, we still kind of had a relationship. Like, because I was, obviously it wasn't news to me. Like, that's what I say. Like, I know what's happened to me, and I've known for a long time, so this isn't shocking to me. I got a phone call from my mom, and she said, you know, you'll never believe who I just got off the phone with. And I was like, oh, God, you know, she's like, I got off the phone with your old babysitter. And she told me that she too was molested by Lewis. Okay, Lewis is my dad. That's what I call him from here on out. I'm sorry. So, because I don't like saying my dad anymore. It was so upsetting for me to hear it to happen to someone else because, like I said, my entire life I thought it was just me. And not that it's okay that it was just me, but I could live with it being just me. But when I found out about my babysitter, that made me think, who the hell else is this happening to? Is this still happening? And I have the power to prevent it and to stop it. And so that's really what's so upsetting. Like, if I would have done this earlier, perhaps, who knows how many other people would have been affected. But prior to going into this interview, I had already negotiated, like, I needed to use words that made me feel okay. I can't take a positive term that I would use in my actual sexual relationships that are positive and apply it to such a negative situation. So medical words I think are not sexy whatsoever. So Felicia was like the key word in the situation because that's what would fall under the law. Okay, so I had to ask him about each specific incident and I was like, you know, I can't remember the first time specifically, but I do remember a time when we were on your bed and I was like, and you forced me to do Felicia out. And he was like, oh, you're right. Like, and it was, oh, got it. And it was so, yeah. Oh, but Annie, if I ever saw you uncomfortable, I would make you stop. Like a great fucking hero he is. Like, I was just like, okay, great, moving on. Like, I was very stern about it. And he continually throughout the conversation said, but you see, Annie, I had no choice because I was asserting the power that I lost when my brother did this to me onto you. And I was like, God bless the women's studies because I was so mentally prepped, I feel like, to hear that. And I feel like this was supposed to happen at this point in my life because I couldn't deal with that. I would get really upset and think, well, what was he thinking before he killed himself? And I'd get really upset about that. And I just can't. Like, that's not my problem, you know? Like, once again, I had to just keep reminding myself that was his choice. That was his choice. You know, like I kept thinking, his number one fear in life is to be raped. And he knew if he went to jail, he'd be raped. And that's why he killed himself. And as my boyfriend pointed out to me a million times, like, he still chose to do what he did full well knowing those repercussions, so it's not your fault.
In high school, and it was in these incredibly fraught circumstances in the respect, but pretty severe social system where girls were it was virginity or death. Bryn Mawr was a very violent place, and it believed in keeping its nose out of students' personal lives. I didn't lose my virginity until my senior year, and when I did, I sort of chose the boy, and I prepared. I was number 2, so when I was I believe I was one of the last. I mean, I was just never sex. It was I was a big part of the opening of the club, and I was fairly high. I probably had I probably has a coat, because everybody did in those days. This was 79. This very charming guy, started talking to me when I came over. And he was fun. He was very good looking. And then eventually, he asked if he could come home with me. And I had a fatal thought, which was, why are you always saying no? As we started to get ready to have sex, I excused myself to go into the bathroom and to put my diaphragm on, and he grabbed my wrist and so hard that I felt like the bones were knocking, and it was really shocking. And he said, "Don't put that thing on." I was immediately frightened. I mean, really seriously frightened. He was so strong, and I was naked. And I heard myself say, this was the beginning of sort of going into a slightly altered state, but I heard myself say, "Oh, but I have to, I'm having my period," and catch the blood. And he looked stunned for a moment. and really it was a lie. But it was, I was somehow just obsessed with having to have that barrier. This was a small apartment, and I went out of the bedroom, and as I started going to the bathroom, I was aware that, the door was like 20 feet away, 25 feet away, the door out into the hall, but all I could see was having to go out there naked and knock on someone's door, and I couldn't face it. As we started to have sex, he had the most frightening look in his eyes. There was a kind of fear, and he was very rough. I took care not to look in those eyes any more than I could help. I felt it was dangerous to do that. By not looking at him, I didn't have to acknowledge this weird anger that he seemed to be experiencing. His teeth were clenched. I pretended not to be hurt by the stuff that was going on. It happened pretty fast. And he leapt up and went out of the room into the living room where most of his clothes were. And I was then entirely back inside myself and just scared out of my skull. I heard the door open and slam shut, and I thought, can he be gone? And then I heard him, racing down the stairs. I called my friend Ellen, and I knew why I was calling her. She had been raped. She had been the victim of a pushing rape. And she had written extensively. She researched and written a long article. I told her that, or I guess I should call the police. He'll do this to other people. And she said, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but what happened to you is not really rape in New York State. And it wasn't. The laws were horrendous then. What I needed to be was like physically torn. There had to be evidence that I had fought, and I had not fought. I had submitted in absolute terror. Ellen told me that in fact it would be a thankless task, and that I would tell the story to the police. This guy I met at a party, I brought him home, I undressed, he didn't tear my clothes off. She couldn't have been better, but she noticed that I was not using the R word. Why aren't you saying rape? And I said, well, when you look at it, look what I did. And she said that, the only reason you had sex with him was that you were completely frightened not to. And she said, anytime anybody has sex with anyone else out of fear it's rape.
Born and raised in New Jersey, my dad's from Kenya, so that's an interesting intersection of being a first-generation American and parents from two different cultures. My dad and mom once said to a boy, "You look good and touch," and my mom would say, "Boys only want one thing from you, and once they get it, they will leave you." The day I left for college, my mom said, she said, "Don't be alone in a room with a boy because your reputation is all you have." Virginia was an adjustment. My parents were so strict that I kind of wild, but it was a big struggle also academically because I didn't know how to ask for help because I never really needed to ask for help before. I took classes over the summer. I was able to catch up with the credits that I did miss from that semester, and I was still on track. So I felt that, it would be okay. And then I sort of got another wrench thrown into things you can sort of say when I started dating my ex-boyfriend. In retrospect, he was one who took silence as consent, so it was really a weird first experience where I felt like he kind of took sex from me. We got into some argument and he wanted me to leave, but I wasn't leaving fast enough, so he called the cops on me. He told the Tufts police how I wasn't a student there, so they arrested me. That sort of changed the dynamic because he always was able to hold that over my head. I think it was Halloween, I went to his fraternity, I had a drink and I almost completely blacked out from that night. So, but I remember bits and pieces, and apparently I ran into him, but then he walked me home, but clearly wasn't in a position to consent. So I wake up in his place the next day, and there's a little bit of a voice in the back of my head saying, that's rape, you should call the cops. But then I remembered my experience being arrested months before, and I'm like, no one's gonna believe me, or I already have a record, so I'm not gonna take it seriously. So I was like, let me just date him, because that would be easier, and maybe people at Tufts won't think that I'm crazy because I got arrested. He was very drunk. We were at a bar and got kicked out for threatening my life, basically. I felt really bad he got kicked out, so I was like, oh, let me just take him home. He's just being belligerent. I don't want him to get lost. So I went home. I walked him back to his place, and he physically hurt me on the way home. That sort of was the last straw.
I filed a statement with the Tufts police out of nowhere. I also filed a complaint with the Tufts student judicial process detailing his abuse in the past years. That also went nowhere. So I filed a Title IX complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. That complaint is still pending.
I even made a website about what happened to me at Tufts, sort of to scare them, which was kind of also terrified them. And they actually made some changes to their sexual assault policy after reading my website. I don't really let my parents in terms of what I have gone through, just because I feel ashamed that I let someone who was so bad affect my life so negatively. I feel like my parents, especially like my dad, worked really hard for me to have the best in my life. And I feel like I let them down. So, I think they have some hints here and there, but I don't talk about it at all with them because I still feel like deep down I could have not failed at school. I feel like I should have been able to get over it, or I should have been able to move on, or I should have been able to have done something differently to avoid me being where I am now. I've been trying to build a new life since then. I'm still really distrusting of institutions or authority and that sort of thing. It still feels like they're not made for people like me. Whatever that may mean.
Văjeava-se între indigenați, văjeava-se nașcus quae indigenați, voiseva quae indigenați, mai intimina, amașcus stora, anishinabi quae, ca adaganac indulgevat. My first Indian name is based on my second Indian name is based on Alpine, and my third Indian name is Tornado Woman. I am an Anishinaabe woman, and I come from the Wider Ojibwe Nation, and here in northwestern Minnesota. I grew up in a very violent, bloody home. My mom was a victim of domestic violence in such bloody, horrific forms. He was Vietnam vet. He was special forces, and he was very efficient. Prisoner of war, and because she's still there. When alcoholism is part of the family, alcohol is first and foremost. In their towns, we didn't have electricity, in those towns we didn't have heat, in our towns we didn't have food. We were extremely poor. There was times when I was little, I'd eat ice cubes and I'd eat paper. It's actually surprising, it's kind of quite good. When you're hungry. I was sexually abused my entire childhood by 13 plus people. Sex was never talked about, but it was, survival, being molested, because when there's alcoholism in the home, there's the parties and predators know this. The predators know this, and children are very vulnerable. The first time I was raped, I was 15. At this particular time, I'm walking to my aunt's house across town, and it was acquaintance from school, and they was following me, and hey, but whatever, talking, and wanted to kiss me, and I wanted to go further, and I wouldn't, and I didn't want to. I was still a virgin at this time, and he forced me down on the ground, and it was actually right across from my aunt's house, and it was a big oak tree, and no one heard me, and no one seen anything. I didn't tell anybody. It's because I already was conditioned with the many times of calling the cops for my mom. Many times officers would come and tell me to knock it off. Or if they did haul him off to jail, they would he'd bail himself out and come right back and do it again. At 16, I was raped again. With my best friend, and it was her brother, another of his friends, and I that were supposed to go with cigarettes. And that night was a very long, terrible night. His friend was driving, and he's touching me, and I don't like that. and then the brother pulls me back in the back seat, and I'm forced to give oral sex, and for, telling me that if I didn't do this, they're gonna dump me out someplace. And so that night it was raped repeatedly. It was until that morning we come back to the house party. And again, this instructor not to say anything, and I never did. I figured over a fight in front and he's calling me a bitch. And he comes up to me and he slaps me across the face. If I would have pulled back, he would have hit my daughter. And when he hit me, it turns out this time, my daughter's right here and she's looking up at me. And I called that the slap of reality. Right then and there, I realized that I had just become my mother and my daughter had just become me. And damn, was I going to have my dog come in here.
Bless you.
Looking at the history of the violence against Indigenous people, the wars against Indigenous people, the current policies and laws that are in place that even to this day, does not protect us as Indian women, as Indian people. And that even with current federal law passing, the measures to protect us as Indian women is less than other women. So like with the standard laws of rape against a woman is 4 years. For us as Indian women, it's 3. So it still feeds that perception that violence against Indian women is more tolerable because we're less than. As Native women, the way we're targeted violence today, statistically that we are 1 in 3 to be raped, and that's based on 30% of Native women actually reporting, and that's not even including statistics in Indian country. I guarantee you, almost not every woman in Indian woman has that. The first thing he says is, no, there are no have-tos. You don't have to take off your clothes. You don't have to take off your clothes to go into a sweat lodge. They really shouldn't have to be putting their hands on you. And the more I'm visiting and learning, the more I'm not able to keep the cork in my bottle. All of these memories now that I've been able to successfully, stuff away and keep contained is now coming to the surface. What he does is he tells me how to do the ceremony with the tree. It's just a ceremony, just doing that tree. No one's around, no one can hear you. Scream, cry. Tell the tree everything, everything. The little icky things. Things that, I haven't ever told anybody. Everything else's garbage was now out for me. And I was like, those that are victims of sexual assault in particular, child sex abuse and whatnot, that's not ours. That's theirs. That's their ugliness. That's not for us to carry.
I was 17 when I first had sex. There were so many girls in my high school that were called sluts and things, and all those horrible names that would call women. And all of these guys were able to go and have sex with anyone and everyone. And I said, this is terrible, and I am going to have sex with who I want to, when I want to, and just kind of defy that stereotype of what women are supposed to do and what's okay for men and not okay for women. I was born in Rutland, North Dakota, on my parents' farm by Rutland, which is a small town. partner was someone that I met at my friend's lake cabin, and we just were hanging out and had sex that night. It was actually very painful, but at the same time I felt a little bit empowered that I had said that this was okay for me. I was 18 when I was raped, and so that was actually my second sexual partner. And I went to a party with some friends from high school friends, not only my new college friends, and that's where I was raped. It was a house party, and there was a guy that I was talking to and having fun with, enjoying his company, and we, kissed a little bit, made out, whatever, and we were both drinking, of course, so that adds to the stigma of the whole story. But I hadn't had very much to drink, and he asked me to go upstairs, and I wasn't afraid of him, and turned out I should have been. He kept insisting that he wanted to have sex, and I just kept saying no. That I didn't want to, and I remember kind of bargaining with him that, we can make out, like, I'm fine with this part of it, like, I don't want to have sex with you. And he was an incredibly big guy. I'm sure he was probably 6'4" and 250 pounds, and he was much more powerful than me, and at one time I did try and escape and he pinned me to the wall, and threw me back on the bed. We were in a bedroom fairly close to the bathroom, and so I could hear people going in and out of the bathroom, and I would think about screaming, and it just didn't come. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I wanted to, and I wanted to tell them, but I also knew that someone would come in if I screamed and see me in that position, and that seemed really vulnerable and embarrassing. He actually did put a condom on. And so I remember being thankful for that, and thinking, oh my God, at least I'm not going to get pregnant. Which later, when I was back in my dorm room and went to the bathroom, part of the condom came out, and I realized that the condom had broken. I didn't press charges. I didn't tell my family until actually a few months ago. I was so worried that they would want to press charges, and I was just so afraid for all the attention that would be brought to my family, and for the stance that I took, the year before when I said that I think that I should be able to have sex with my boyfriend. Actually with my parents this summer, eating lunch with them, and my dad was talking about someone that he works with who had been accused of rape in college, and that these charges had been brought up again, and it's a male who he works with, and he was talking about that and said something about it probably being false, and I got really angry. And I proceeded to explain why I was so upset. And they were incredibly supportive. If I could confront my rapist right now, I think that I would ask him if he could be strong enough, like I believe I am, to join this movement that's working to end this and share his story and talk about maybe some of the thoughts that went through his head, and talking to young men about the fact that this isn't right, and that he's screwed up. But that he wants things to be better for women, and that he wants things to be better for young men.
When I was 12, Andrea, my sister, didn't know how to talk about what had happened to her. And even if she had, no one around her knew how to listen. When I started making this movie, I thought it was a film about speaking out. But by the end of it, I realized it was a film about learning to listen. And if future generations can be raised to know how to do that, honestly, that would give me a lot of hope.
And if you're a filmmaker and your ex-girlfriend is a famous rock star, you got her there to do the song at the end of your movie. That's why it's good to date famous people. You have an opportunity. So what'd you think?
Powerful. Very powerful.
So I've shown the film before with the filmmaker and Kristen Clifford, the one with the cassette tape. And I've heard the Q&As. So I don't know if you have any questions about the film, but I might know the answers because I've heard many of the answers. Or if you just want to talk about why I was powerful, you can do that too. Or if you want any updates on any of these people. I know some of those.
I think it was more powerful that like just women like speaking about this vulnerable experience. Like yeah, it's very difficult. No one really wants to like relive that, but I think women are strong and just advocating that like you need to speak about it because there is such a social like silence when it comes to it.
Right.
And that silence confuses women who are raped because it's like it's not spoken about. Can I say it? Is it actual rape? What is it?
Right.
So like they go through years of just silence or questioning it, and then when they do realize it, they've had all these years and are just sort of traumatized because it's just been sitting with them and they don't know how to handle it initially and where are the resources. And I just like think the purpose behind this is to open discussion and just to like change sort of like cultural stigmas that frown upon talking about it. And if it's spoken about, people can ask questions and people can, like provide resources. But if it's just not even spoken about, what do you do?
Right.
So I think it's you can even connect that to homosexuality, bisexuality, just sexual orientation for you years ago. It just wasn't spoken about as openly, and so how do I handle it if I am, all these stigmas, and you're silent for so long, and you sort of don't know the same thing, just culturally talking about it.
And I like the fact that it covered different types of sexual assaults.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't have one picture of the image that we often have of the shady guy in the bushes, it turns out.
Yeah.
It was family members, it was boyfriends, associates, guys that were attractive, guys that weren't attractive, in the stories that they share. And it just gives you a full picture of what it looks like and how that it's in some ways natural to even grapple with the question like, what role did I play? And I didn't know him, and the one situation with the woman from Tufts, actually it was two situations where they became boyfriend girlfriend. They entered into a relationship following, and how they looked back and said, "Well, what was that was going on at the time?" Let's process it that way. But it still doesn't change the fact that that was still a sexual assault that happened beforehand, even though they chose to end the relationship.
Which of the narratives had the biggest impact?
I think.
Father.
And like him saying that this isn't my fault. This is just me taking my power back. I thought that was.
And who was it?
His brother had done it to him.
I don't know. Yeah, his brother did it to him.
I think the last one for me, only because she talked about, she sort of opened the door for this doesn't just happen when you're just about with feminism, there's this movement for it's not just a women's issue, it's everyone's issue, all inclusive, and I think it's the same goes for rape. Yes, it's maybe more, I'm sure more statistically more common amongst women, but it does happen to men. If they're committing these acts, and it does also include them, and I'm sure it could be women on women, and just that it's not strict.
That's one thing. We had a speaker come a few years back that made that exact comment. He came and talked about sexual assault, rape, relationship violence, and how it's often, there's some groups that couch it as a women's issue, and it's not. It doesn't. It happens. The larger societal issue isn't just about women committing these activities for the women. If men are involved in the acts, and the way we raise our young boys to become men and what messages we give them, it's not a woman's issue, it's a societal issue.
Definitely.
The couch is quiet.
I think it was just interesting to listen to the woman talk about how if she could talk to a rapist, she would ask him to speak about it and to speak to other young men about it. I was really interested when she was saying about how her father was no, I don't think the guy ever proved it. That's a lot of people don't feel are they going to believe me? And then when you wait so long, and then decide, no, I have to go speak up about it, that's what always comes up with, are they going to believe me? I believe in the rest of the time. I don't know. I never thought about the guys who have done that to actually speak up about it and say this is where I am now, this is what I did. And you don't want to live with that and to speak out to other guys about it. I've never known that. That really caught my attention.
And when Amanda said she's going back to her high school reunion and says, And she said, like, I hope all of these guys have daughters and are worried, like, how they'll be treated in high school. Like, to think about that the perspective of, like, oh, now you're a father. How you would think about how the world is going to treat.
But it's weird because, like, even if they become fathers, you never know if they're gonna really care about their children, right? Like, how they're gonna treat their own kids. Like,
And the higher level and the hope, and this may be ideological, the hope is that we, men and women, get to a point where issues, especially tragic issues and issues where someone exerts power over another, that these issues matter not because I have a daughter or because I have a wife, but they matter because on a human level, that we shouldn't mistreat one another. And for some, it takes having a daughter and saying, whoa, wow, I see it in perspective. But at least there's a ray of hope in the back of my mind that says it won't take that for everyone. I would hope not. That it can matter to us, even if it never affects us personally. That it can be an issue that's important to us and worth fighting for. Not just because this thing may affect me one day, but because it's the right thing to do, and that it's affecting people in our environments, our families, our communities all the time.
Juliana, which did you think was the most powerful experiment?
I think the one about the father too, just because that's just something so shocking to me, especially like having such a good relationship with like my dad, that a father could ever do that to their daughter. Just like disgusting to me.
In the follow-up interview, I know from talking to Jennifer about it, the woman was like flying, she had a layover in New York, she was flying from Florida to Boston or something, and she was in New York for like 3 hours, and Jennifer like drove to JFK and got her and brought her back to her apartment and filmed that very intense scene about the father's death, and then like took her back to the airport and she flew on, and she just talked about like, as a filmmaker, you feel terrible about asking somebody to go through that, and the logistics were kind of a pain in the ass because this isn't like a big budget film. She was like, oh, let me fly you to this studio where you can interview people. It's like, here, come sit down in my office. We've got to get you back to the plane. And maybe she hadn't slept the night before. Like, it was a whole complicated thing. And it's so brave of her to like make sure to have that extra piece of help.
What was all? Oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for like doing this. It's like I did it for a class actually, but I was like talking to my professor about like it's hard to do like write stories on things I'm like not interested in, and this is like something I'm actually very interested in, just like advocating for like domestic violence, rape, that sort of thing. And so I appreciate that this also like sparks discussion within our own little community. And
you reminded me. I have the Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Oh, cool.
Is now, and these are bracelets with the purple for domestic violence awareness and prevention, maybe. So have one of these. Morgan made them for us. She couldn't be here. She had to go to work. And when somebody asks you why it's purple, you can tell them. Sorry to interrupt what you were saying.
No, that's okay.
I think it was interesting where speaking of the father situation, it was interesting where she said, in her recollection, that one of his greatest fears is being raped, and that's why he killed himself, and he perpetrated the act against his own daughter. Not that he should perpetrate it against anybody, especially in his family.
Didn't he already get raped?
By his brother.
Yeah.
But it also sheds light on the idea that oftentimes, and we've all heard it, that hurt people, and that I would think with the women that participate in this documentary, that's part of the process of breaking cycles, where you have an outlet that's positive and not negative, so you don't continue the cycle of hurt and pain.
So I find it interesting how like one of the ladies was like so worried about her family finding out. How there's like all that pressure on people, and how a lot of the time they think that they're automatically going to get blamed for that.
Yep.
So to follow up on the happy ending part, Stacey Enchant is featured in this documentary, who's an amazing writer and poet. You see at the end of the film, she has a very little baby who's now an adorable...
Suckling at her teats.
Yes.
Now she has an adorable daughter. And they have done a series of YouTube videos called Living Room Protests, where they talk about some issue that is important to them. There's a really good one about hair, but this one is probably my favorite and is a good way to think about how to explain consent, if a 3-year-old can get consent. So, I think Cornell, you might have to turn the light off. Do you? Oh. Did you put it back on there? Alright.
Mama, and today this is our third living room protest.
Absolutely, third living room protest. And what are we protesting today, Gretchen? For picking up, as in you don't like when people pick you up, or you like when they pick you up?
Yeah.
Yeah, what? You don't like it? You have to be clear about these things. You don't like when they pick you up? Okay. What about when they have your permission? Not even when they have your permission, you just don't like to be picked up. Why don't you like to be picked up? Your permission is no. Okay. So no picking up kids without their permission. Can you say that?
No kids say no picking up.
Because no means
no.
No means no. So don't pick me up without my permission, even if I'm a kid.
And I also want you to stop when I want you to come, and when you touch me, I will say yes.
Okay, so when you say yes, then it's okay to touch me.
Yeah.
But when you say no, it's not okay.
Can you touch me?
Yes, you can touch me. Grand. Zuri, can I touch you?
Yes.
Absolutely. Tickle, tickle, tickle. All right, well, that's our living room protest. All about touching and bodies and picking up and permission. Do you want to?
Let's do another one.
We want to do another living room protest?
Yeah.
Well, let's finish with this one first, okay?
Cute.
I don't like being picked up either.
So, I think there are now, I don't know, a lot of these.
My permission is no.
There's a really good one about hair. If you want to...
Somewhere in 15 minutes.
If you want to kill
Thanks
some
for coming.
time,
Yeah, no, thank you.
just search Living Room Protest on YouTube. They're really good. Any other issues from the film you'd like to discuss? I'll say that Wagatwe's story from Tufts makes me think a lot about campus responses to sexual assault.
Ah, yes.
Who your campus responders to sexual assault are?
Security?
So, security is an option. I don't know if you've met many of the security officers, but people over here are giggling because they probably have met security officers.
Yeah, I know things.
They may not be your first choice.
But they will have to report if they hear something.
They will have to report if you hear something.
So don't avoid the security. I mean, they are an option.
They are an option.
Yes.
That's your best option?
Huh?
Not your best option,
Not your
no?
best option.
Maybe, they might be your best
It
option.
depends. It
Yeah.
depends.
There are all kinds of, you wanna have a lot of
If
options.
that's an outlet,
So who are,
so
yeah, who are some of your options?
There's
Are you an option?
faculty, there's staff.
am I an option?
Yeah.
Of course I'm an option.
Oh, no, and I are options.
Virtually an option, yes.
So on campus, faculty and staff, with 3 exceptions, are all mandated reporters, which means if you come to me and tell me that someone you know is sexually assaulted, I have to report that to the Title IX office because we take sexual assault seriously. And we want to make sure that if something's going on, the university can respond. And that the university resources are there for the people who are experiencing sexual assault. So any faculty, staff, anyone, RAs are all mandated reporters. Your 3 people who aren't mandated reporters, who if you want to talk to somebody who doesn't have to report it to anyone else, are counseling. They have walk-in hours every day at 1 o'clock. The campus health center, which also has PEP and PrEP, so if you think you've been exposed to HIV, if you go there within 72 hours, they can treat you to stop you from acquiring HIV, I guess is the verb, right? And they've got Plan B and STI screenings, and they can treat any kind of, injury or illness associated with sex, consensual and otherwise. And the last one is Sister Susan, the campus chaplain. If you want to talk to a nun, she's my favorite nun ever.
Do we have any more nuns?
What?
Sorry. Do we have any other nuns besides her?
No,
She's our only nun.
she's our chaplain. She's
Only one nun.
Only one nun. We have no rabbis. But if you need
That's
a rabbi,
bad.
let me know. I can find you a rabbi. If you need an imam, it's not in my favorite find you.
Didn't they?
Really? No.
Didn't they
Tell
just?
his brother to find you.
Didn't they just open the Muslim prayer room next to the Chronicle office in W. Paul?
I'm never in
No, that's just Sister Susan's
It's-
prayer room.
No, I thought it was like Muslim.
Well, I think that if you wanted a place to pray, that would be a good option.
Interesting.
And she'd be happy to host you.
I have to go investigate this.
But the person who investigates sexual assault at PACE is Lisa Miles. She's the Title IX coordinator and affirmative action officer. And she's great. And she is easy to find on the pace.edu/sexual assault website, or you can call her, or you can ask someone else to find your number, or her email isamiles@pace.edu. RAs, RDs all have training around sexual assault. And there's a great organization in Westchester called Victims Assistance Services, who are also confidential, and you can call them. Their number is in the... What happened? Here. Take one of these. Their Victims Assistance Services number is here under confidential resources, and they're great. If somebody's been sexually assaulted, they'll meet you at the hospital. They will go with you to, if there's a hearing on campus. Some campuses make it kind of like a trial where the person accusing the other person get together and talk about what happened. There's no to that. But if you have to go talk to the dean for students about what you want to happen, if you want to pursue a case or not, they'll come do that. Everything they do is no cost to you. If you go to court, they'll go to court with you. So they're great. I feel like now we need a happy ending, like a movie. Look at these people. They're living great lives.
Yeah. It's good though.
Ending is happy.
Yes. So if you want another great program that deals with sexuality, Tuesday at 3:30, let me get posters. Robin Oakes is coming. If you'd like one of these posters, feel free to take one. She's famous for talking about bisexuality, but she's doing this program which is about all kind of non-binary sexualities and identities, and her name is misspelled on the poster. So if you see her, make sure that you call her Robin with a Y, not Robin with a Y. She needs that. And I forgot to. And there's going to be a cake for like 100 people. So if you like chocolate frosting.
Who doesn't like chocolate frosting?
Cornell, do you like chocolate frosting? You're the only
I haven't had chocolate frosting in maybe a decade.
Right, I need chocolate.
I don't need cake very much.
Why not?
But anyway, it's not about me.
And it's not about
me
me.
enjoying.
So
enjoying
come
the
to
cake.
that, you're looking great. And Juliana, thanks for your laptop.
Yes.
You saved the day.
Thank you. I have a disk drive.
Alrighty, which one of you guys wants to be wants to be quoted in the Pace Chronicle? Yeah.
He quoted the Pace Chronicle.
Okay.
He quoted.
I need to talk to you guys too afterwards.
Okay.
Oh look, Cornell already ejected the button. Okay. Alright, I'll stop pushing the eject button like a lunatic.
Alrighty.
And there's chocolate. Thanks, I'll have
I wish.
There's chocolate? Hi, Sonia. Oh, that is SDCA's. I will return it with its little case, which I think is on the floor.
I'm going to stop this.
Do it like in here?
You're doing it here. I'm not going anywhere else. Might be too much effort right now. Anyway. So, what did you think of the event?
Thanks for coming.
I thought it was really powerful. I came in here not really sure of what I was going to be seeing.
Yeah, I just found out about this yesterday.
And what stuck out to me the most is how every story was different. It wasn't just, this is what rape is, this is the definition of rape. It doesn't matter what you went through, there's no one definition. You don't have to be afraid that if you come out and say this is what happened to me, people will be like, that's not rape. No. And it was really interesting to hear one of the women speak about how her boyfriend took silence as consent.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful to hear people say, like, just because you don't say no doesn't mean it's a yes. And like, I loved how there was that happy ending, realizing that there's so many powerful women who go through these things and still, like, they still have amazing lives. They still move past that and they find ways to help others. Because like for me, like personally, I have been like a victim of sexual assault. And like, so now I speak out to people. Like, it took me a long time to come to terms with it. But like, seeing these women, seeing how they like fearlessly speak out about it now because they know that they can make a difference is just so powerful and so moving to see.
I have friends who have also been victims, and a lot of them just don't want to speak out about it because they just want it to end. You know.
I feel
like they won't even go to the cops just because they want it to.
Well, like I personally, I did choose not to press charges, and like it was really hard for me to even like stop one day and tell myself like this happened.
Absolutely.
I have to let it sink in, and that's probably the scariest part. Like when one of the women said that she told her father like I know what you did and stuff, like you have a wife. It was like there's just a moment where it sinks in and you can either let it engulf you or you can try to move on from it and try to make a positive impact on the world through it.
Absolutely.
So like it's kind of like empowering to see all the amazing things that these women are doing despite what happened to them. The way that they took all that negativity and just used it to fuel them and to empower themselves even more in the world so that they could help other women and so that they could help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty good. To go with what they were saying about security here before, if anything ever happens, don't really call security. Because I told you about how like some of my friends have been victims. One of my friends called security here and it took them like 30 minutes to get to the townhouse. When like guys when drunk guys broke in and assaulted them. So we're actually working on an article about security right now. So
Yeah, there's like a lot wrong with security, and like I remember we had like this meeting, and we were like with the head of security. You were there for that, and
with
he,
Vinny Beatty.
yeah,
Was this the thing a few days ago, or on Wednesday?
it was on a Monday.
This was with this was the RHA meeting.
Yeah, he was kind of like, no, that doesn't happen. Or at one point he was really surprised. He was like, wait, and we're like, yeah, this is what goes on.
promise you, like this.
No, I know that Vinny knows a lot.
Like,
He shrugged off a lot when we just spoke with him.
Shrugged off a lot.
it's kind of concerning. Like,
That was
when
very concerning.
I was running with my friends at night, and they ended up like sprinting away and left me in a parking lot.
What the
Yeah, friends. We had just.
This.
It was
This
in like
is the case?
September. And there was this guy, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I started running, and I called my mom, and like there was no lighting. We told Vinny that too. Yeah, and I just like, of course I wasn't thinking straight. I should have called someone who was in Pace, but like I just called my mom and was like, stay on the phone with me, don't hang up with me, and like I'm really glad I came here today, just because like hearing her talk about like how you can go to anyone about this, and like it's not something you should stay quiet about, it's something you should speak up about, because there's other people who might be going through the same thing and they're scared, and if you hear one person speak up, they'll be like, wow, I'm not the only one. And like I'm not the only one that's scared, I'm not the only one that went through this, and like just knowing you're not the only one sometimes makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're surrounded right now, but I noticed that like you were saying some good stuff, and I have to write a story for class.
Yeah.
Oh.
Zawinski's print media. Is that what this is for?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. If you want, I could send you the recording of this.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll make life easier. What's your name?
Kimberly, K-I-M, and then I'll spell you my last name.
K-I-M.
B-E-R-L-Y.
B-E-R-L-Y.
And my last name is Zuniga.
Zuniga.
Yeah.
It's a cool last name, though.
Thank you. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah, whenever I go to like the mailroom or anything, they're like, what's your name? I'm like,
I just
look
give
at
them
the card,
the card.
please.
The mailroom especially, because they always ask me to say it out loud, and I'm like, Skylar, but it's S-C-H, not S-K-Y.
Yeah.
Juliana, any thoughts?
Any thoughts? I mean, I was here doing the same. I didn't develop any thoughts.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
the
fine.
only- I
She
mean,
talked a lot. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just used to. I come here. I'm used to these events from here. I did Slut with them last year, so this is something.
Are you doing that again this year? Or
No,
something? Or
no, I
something
think that was-
similar?
I don't know if we're doing something similar. If anything comes about, I'm sure we'd like to.
Yeah,
but-
just let me know.
Yeah, because
So I
last
can
year that was a
cover
big thing. So these films are always interesting. I don't know.
That's fine. That's fine. Alright, guys. What are you, a sophomore, junior?
Freshman.
Freshman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just gotta make sure I get that identification
Okay.
right.
Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Excellent meeting you.
Thank you. Good meeting you too. Oh, what's your name again?
Joe.
Joe. And then there's your name.
See you around.
Yeah, you could send that to me.
Yes, I will. Along with Cornell Craig's comments that he's gonna give me right now. Right?
Comment right now? I'll give you a comment right now. You recording?
Yeah. Of course I'm recording.
Oh,
I'm always recording.
Always recording. I'll just say what I said earlier, that a lot of times people think that that issues related to domestic violence, sexual assault, and rape are women's issues, and they're not women's issues. They're community issues, they're societal issues. I don't think any young man coming to Pace would feel comfortable if women didn't feel comfortable with Pace, no matter what their thoughts are. If the thought is that women come to Pace and are sexually assaulted and are raped, and it's not a comfortable, safe space for women, then it's really not a comfortable, safe space for anyone. So it's not a women's issue, it's a societal issue. It affects the women on our campus, and it affects the women in our society, and it affects the men as well.
When did you guys decide to do this?
Well, it was something we started, well, we didn't, we had a few rollouts, slow rollouts last year as far as the Friday afternoon kind of documentary films. We wanted a casual setting where students can come, relax, and can have conversations about some documentary films that are topics related to what we do in the Austin Multicultural Affairs, but also topics that students are interested in. So, but this is the first one of the year. We're kind of having others
Awesome.
related to issues that are relevant.
Awesome.
That's it.
All right, that's it.
All right. Thanks.
See you around, man.
Thank you all. All right, Quiddle. All right, see you later. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could write it if you send me your stuff.
Write it up.
And I'll send it to you. Okay, I got it.
Add a couple things. I got a couple.
Okay, that's cool. I have no idea. I mean, if she is, you can go talk to her.
Yeah. Okay. So just send it to me whenever it's ready, and we can work on it.
Okay. Bye, Myra. Bye, Cameron. Nice meeting you.
I was getting you too.
Sorry. I've got to write an article about the community meeting. I'm trying to write the thing about the prayer room opening up next to Wilcox.
But they haven't gotten back to you yet?
They haven't got back to me. I'm waiting for a bunch of stuff from a bunch of people. And what else am I doing? There's one other thing that I was doing that I'm going to remember later.
I'm pretty sure there's something tomorrow that I have to go to. The time. The dude thing. The male pageant.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
It's very interesting.
Whatever.
Pledging. It's a very interesting process. Anyway, I'm gonna get home, so I'll see you later. Bye. Yeah, no problem.